Hello, welcome to another video. This is day 4 of this 30 days React challenge, and let's focus on solving the fourth problem. Let's go into that. Simple interest calculator. Okay, so in this lab, okay, objectives, okay, steps. Okay, let's focus on these steps. Create input fields. You'll create three inputs for the principal amount. Okay, interest rate. So we have to create three inputs. Got it. Output divs, establish two divs to show the calculated simple interest. Okay, we'll take principal rate and time as a user input, and we'll calculate simple interest and total amount. So yeah, sounds good. Pre-filled. Okay, there are some default values. The app should display the simple interest total amount dynamically. Okay, so as soon as the value changes, it should calculate directly. We should not have a generate or a calculate button. And we can use tailwind design. Good. Challenge these three, type number, display simple interest. Okay, we have to show simple interest. Then set default values. These are the default values. Principal is 1000, rate is 7, and time is, so we don't have to do any conversion also, like year to month or those kind of things. Update interest rate or input change. Okay, let's do this is a lot similar to the last problem, so let's directly focus on that. Input ID principal. Now we know that if there is an input, its value will keep on changing, and we can use state to save it, right, from previous concept. So we'll create a variable name called PRINCI principal. We'll create a function set principal. Okay, and it will be a use state hook, which we all know by default that whenever this value changes, we can use this function to set the value, and this value will keep on changing wherever we are using inside the project. And what is the default value? 1000. Okay, by default I made a mistake. Obviously all the tests will fail. Instructions. We will do same thing for set rate, and what is the default value for set rate? I think 7, yeah. And finally time. So set time should be 10 years, no, 5 years. And let's create input. They have mentioned that we can use tailwind classes also, so I'll use that to make it look a bit better. Border black, padding 2, margin 2, and block. Why is it not visible? Maybe add a placeholder. Principal. Okay, we'll have to run this. Then add value, which will be this variable, which is principal. I'm making a lot of typo in principal, just bear with me on that part. Okay, we will have to import use state also. Import use state from React. And in this, there is one more thing that we have to do, which is on change. So as soon as the value in this typing changes, on change will get triggered, and from that we can get what value user has typed and set it to this principal, which again will get reflected in this value. So let's do this. Set PRIN principal e dot target dot value, and let's create something similar for other cases also, which is rate. Let's copy this directly. Rate and set rate. Time set time. Okay, and we need two divs. They have mentioned it. Slash div. What was the div? Total amount and simple interest. For this also we will have to create use state only. I will name the variable as simple interest, and second one is total amount, right? So total amount. Let's create a state for that. Set simple interest, total amount, and set total amount, and this should be null. Now what we will have to do is we will have to calculate these values whenever on changes. This gets triggered, right? Whenever principal changes, we will have to recalculate all these values. So for that we can create a function calculate something simple, and in that we'll get the principal. Const interest is equals to principal into rate into time divided by 100. Okay, so that way we'll get the interest. Let's do and we can also get, actually we can set it directly to this, right? Set simple interest, and we can do something similar for set total amount, interest plus PRINCI principal. This should be calculated here. Const amount is equals to this. Interest plus principal. Now let's calculate this. If this, okay, we will have to call this calculate function. So for now I'll just call it in principal, and later on I will have to do this for other also. This is working correctly, this is not, and it looks like it is appending 350 and 1000 that we had earlier. So what it is trying to do is we will have to convert this parse float. We'll have to, this is a string basically, and we will have to convert it to float. Parse float. Thousand is giving there's some form of delay in principle, not sure what, but there is some form of delay. Okay, so basically what we are trying to do is we are creating a race condition that is set principal should get called first, and only after that calculate should get called. But the problem is, what if this is taking time, and before finishing this calculate is getting called? Because of that, I think this is problematic. So what we can do in this case is we can use another hook called use effect. Try to search about it, understand this, but the basic concept is that we can basically keep our focus on principal, rate and time, a sort of an observer on these three values, and either one of these changes we will call the calculate function. Okay, something like we can do this like this: use effect. It takes two parameters. Okay, first one is a function. I'll add a comma. First is a function and second is an array. So function is basically what you want to do, like do something when array changes. Okay, and this is the array basically. So in array we will use principal, rate and time. What it means is that as soon as the principal value changes, this function will get called. Rate changes, this will get called. Time changes, this will get called. And what do we have to do in this? Calculate. We just have to calculate, nothing more. So let's stop this. Let's rerun. Let's check the now you see even in default values they are showing, because rate did change to 1000, and that's why use effect gets called. If we change it to 10, the value should be 700. Now it is working perfectly, I think. Let's try to run this and see if it is correct or not. Oh, great. Even though it was easy, but yeah, it was nice. So we learned in first problem, we learned very basic about code editor, nothing about React. Second, we learned the basics of React, I think. I'm not fully sure about it. I think in third we used use state hook. In this one we are using use state as well as use effect. There might be a better code than this, but I think the code that we have written is good enough. And let's now add an experience. Yeah, let's submit this feedback, and similar to that you can add a feedback on my YouTube channel also. Feel free to mention that if you are doing this regularly with me, following this along, like one day gap is fine, but if you are following this along with me, do mention so that I can know how many people are watching it with me continuously, and whether you know React or not. That would be helpful, understanding that, so that I can decide whether I have to go in depth or not, and if there is some problem where we need to learn something, so I will create a separate video for that first, and then we'll solve that, something like that. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Bye bye.